Hey everyone, Howie Fisher from Fisher's Flies. Thanks for checking in. Today I'm going to be tying up a custom little pattern I've been working on lately. This is essentially a variation of Devin Olson's blowtorch, which is a very effective Euro nymphing pattern. To get started in the vise, I'm using a Fulling Mill 5045 jig force in size 16. I'm using a Fulling Mill tungsten drop bead in 3.5 millimeter with that. And to secure the bead and add some extra weight, I'm using 0.01 lead wire. Once you get a couple wraps on the shank, go ahead and jam it up into the bead to get that bead in the position that you want it. For the thread on this fly, I'm using 70 denier UTC and olive. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with my thread right behind these lead wraps to jam that lead in place and make sure it's not going anywhere. For the tail material on this, I'm using Glow Bright in Fluorescent Fire Orange, which is shade color 5. And I've gone ahead and cut off 2 strands of this, and I'm going to be doubling them over to make this a little bit larger. For a size 18 or 20, I would use 1 strand and double it over, so essentially that there's 2 strands. Once I get this secure, I'm going to add my ribbing material, which is ultra wire in gold, size brassy. And I'm going to add this to the far side of the hook away from me. I like starting right behind the lead wrap so that I'm creating a little bit more of an even taper on this body. For the dubbing on this fly, I'm using a custom dubbing blend that I've been making actually. This is a mix of squirrel, CDC, and flash. If you are interested, I do have it for sale. Just feel free to reach out to me and I can get you hooked up. So I'm going to go ahead and create a slender dubbing loop that's probably about 3 inches long. For this size 16, that should be the right size. Go ahead and wrap it forward to behind the bead. I'm going to add a little bit more just to fill in that gap. Then I will take my ribbing wire and use open spiral wraps to bring that wire right behind the bead. Once I've got that secure, I'll go ahead and helicopter my wire off. Next, I will snip my tail. I personally like to wait until I have the body created on these types of flies before snipping the tail. Just a personal preference. If you want to do it first, that's totally fine and won't affect the fishability of this. Before doing the collar on this fly, you got to make sure that you brush out those fibers. Make sure they're nice and sticky and buggy. Last step on this fly is to take a little clump of dubbing. You got to straighten these fibers out, make sure that they are all facing the same direction. And I'm going to go ahead and flatten my thread out to create a split thread dubbing loop. Again, if you haven't watched that video that I've created, I'll put the link above so you can watch a tip video that I created to go a little bit more in depth. Once I have my thread split, I'll go ahead and insert that little clump and go ahead and spread it out as you see me doing here to make sure that those materials don't clump up and they're evenly spread for a couple wraps on that collar. Next, I'm going to go ahead and cord up my thread. So if you're looking down on the bobbin, you want to spin your bobbin counterclockwise, and this will cord the thread back up. Once I've got that where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and take a couple wraps with this to create that little collar. And you can see there it's just a very buggy, leggy looking collar. To finish this fly, obviously a couple turn whip finish, snip your thread, and give it a little bit more brush to make sure none of these fibers are trapped. There you have it. This is a nymph I'm calling the Perfect Blend Nymph. And go ahead and tie them up. Let me know what you think. Again, if you'd like some of this dubbing, reach out.